Right, welcome to this tutorial. It's for basing. I've got a different technique here. It's the urban basing scheme, but sort of with a city pavement style. And that's going to make use from some products from Green Stuff World. So we'll be using a number of products from them just to show you how I can achieve this paved result here. So I'm going to zoom in and we'll show you one that's finished, and then I'll give you an idea what to expect from this tutorial. Just follow along step by step. I'll show you each stage of the way, show you all the materials and so on that you need. And if you like this technique and you like the way these bases have come out, just follow along step by step, then you should be able to get the same results, no problem. So this is the base. This is a Terminator base here, 40mm size base. You can see the pavement effect on there. And then elements of my urban basing scheme as well. So you've got the rubble here, some skulls, some flock, a bit of grass here as well, just to add more of a feature to it. But if you like the results you see here, follow along step by step and I'll show you how to achieve this pavement style urban basing. So I'll go through materials that you need for this project to get the results that you see here. Obviously you'll need your bases, whichever ones you're going to use. Probably work on any type of base, but this is the scalar bases I've been using here. This is for the secret project I'm working on. It's a brand new faction I'm working on for the army, and this is the basis here for one of the units, but I thought I'd choose one of the larger bases here just to give you a good example of how this technique works. So it's a good few materials. So check out greenstuffworld.com. They do all sorts of stuff. It's a real treasure trove of materials that can help you out with your modelling. As you see here, I've got a small selection of materials here for this project, but they do a vast array of stuff, paints and accessories of all different types. But here I'm going to use these rolling pins that they have. It's a textured rolling pin. There's all sorts of options here. I'm just going to stick to one type, but I've got a few examples. But this one here, it's nice and solid, and it has the embossed detail there of the design, and you simply roll that across your green stuff to then make the indentation that gives you the pattern that you're looking for. So the one I'm using here is called Small Bricks from Green Stuff World. But there's a number of other ones that you can use. Again, you can choose whichever one you want. Small Bricks is one I'm going to use, but there's some other great ones here. There's one called Factory, which is all of your metal plates and grids and grills and so on, and a nice lot of variety inside that. So that's another great option to go for if you like the metallic sort of look. And then I've got one here, Double Diamond as well, which is again more metallic plates, but also that galvanized steel sort of walkways and so on. With that one. There's other ones. I think there's an Aztec type one which looks really ornate, looks really good. And there's other ones available, so just pretty much choose the one you want, whichever basing scheme you wish. You might be into Age of Sigmar, for example. You might want something more sort of ancient looking, and I think they've got those kind of options available as well. Whichever basing style you decide to go for, this technique is going to apply to whichever type. So that's those. Other materials then, green stuff. You can get that from Green Stuff World or other places like eBay and so on. They'll have it. It's very common and easily available. So we'll mix that. I'll use that for the base. Then I've got a pack of skulls here. These are from Green Stuff World. They're cast up in resin. Just simply snap them off as you need them. Skulls, great feature to add to either Warhammer, Age of Sigmar, or for 40k. They look great. And you get a pack here of 2 of these. Now lasts for ages. That'll do a whole army's basing pretty much. There is another set that you can use. I'm not going to use it in this video, but it's Crunch Time, it's called, and it's basically just a whole plate full of skulls, and you get 2 of them inside the inside the pack. There's loads, but for this you can make a whole base of these on, or you can break them off into bits, trim them up and then stick them down, even this basing technique, just to create like a heap of skulls. But there's loads in there. Another amazing accessory just there. So rocks and sand. Let's cover all of these materials for you. It's inside here. I've got regular sand, stones, spare stones that have fallen in there from the other pot, and then some finer gravel and grit in there as well. But it's mostly sand. That's the final coat that you put on when you do your basing. So there's that one, and then I have a box here of stones, so larger stones, feature stones that I can stick onto bases, and then a finer gravel here as well. So like so. A lot of people have asked us, said, well, where do you get your basing materials from? You can buy them as supplied by gaming companies, but often it's been sieved and sifted into a particular size, and it can look a little bit sort of artificial. So for that natural look, the best way is to go to nature if you can. So that came from a beach that I walked down to and found a load of this stone whilst I was away on holiday. It doesn't have to be a beach, so you can find it. I was down at a river a few days ago, and an area where the waterfall was, it pushed a load of gravel up from underneath, and there was sort of like a little area of ground up stone as well, and that would have been perfect for base materials. Just keep an eye out, look out, but I'd say nature's the best if possible. If not, you can get stuff from gaming companies, even aquariums as well. Pet shops maybe might have some, so, and even eBay, places like that. So but keep a lookout as you're walking about and beaches and riverbeds and so on. You can find some amazing stuff. You know, and if you find even just like at the beach, I found an old empty bottle that washed up. I filled that with stones, and that's going to last all my armies for a long time. So you don't need tons and tons of it. Just a small sampling of it will last you ages. Regular sand, you can go to your builders merchants, buy one bag of sand, and then that's going to last you forever as well. So basic materials shouldn't create too much of a problem. I've got some flock here. This isn't from Games Workshop, it's from a company called TSS. It's called Verdant Green. It's a very sort of finer looking green. But again, you just choose your own flock that you like. The flocks that are available from Games Workshop are fine. They're a little bit longer grain, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. That's the one that I've used just there. Then those tufts that you saw, I've got a selection of these here. Again, they're all available from Green Stuff World. So a nice variety of colours. So there's the dried out grass here. Just seeing if there's a name for them here. Yes, beige is this one. This colour scheme I've used for my sort of desert look, which would be my Harlequins, for example, which I'm working on. I'd use them, but that's not for this project. For urban, it's sort of a abandoned city with the grass and so on has started to grow. So I've got two tones here. The first one is realistic green, so slightly darker. No, that's the lighter one. And then a slightly darker one here and a bit more washed out looking. Not much difference between these two. Is dry green. That one just there. But they do, looks like they do 6 varieties. Yeah, but I'm a big fan of these. They just look brilliant on bases, and so I've found an excuse to add them to this urban colour scheme. Not too much, just here and there, just the odd tuft of grass growing. And again, 1 pack of them should do you for a whole army if you're quite sparing with them. So just trying to think what else. Good modelling knife, you'll need that for cleaning up and so on later on. Selection of brushes as well. Then for sticking some of the materials on, super glue. So I've got the Mitre Fast stuff here. I bought it off eBay. It came with an activator as well, which is extremely useful, and it's a nice big can. It'll last forever, which is excellent. It really does help to have a decent activator. Got to watch out for activators sometimes though. You put the activator on and it can weaken the joint and the super glue. It dries it out fast but doesn't create such a strong bond, so watch out for that. PVA glue. Again, be careful. It's not always wood glue. Sometimes you get wood glue and it's quite brittle. It's PVA glue is what you're after. Polyvinyl acetate. This stuff's got a nice bit of bend to it and good strength. So a bottle of that. And again, that kind of size lasts you forever. And I'm looking around here. That's about it, I think. Just a palette for mixing, a tissue for drying off brushes, and so on. And I think that's pretty much all that you'll need in this tutorial. A fair amount of materials, but you're going to base perhaps a whole army, and those materials that you've seen there will be able to do the whole thing, no problem. So there's paints. There's a couple of sprays as well. So Montana Gold is the range here. This one's, the code is 7070, Stealth is the name. It's this dark grey colour. If you see any of my armies with that dark grey base colour scheme, that's the colour that I use on that. If you can't get hold of that, I used to use a colour called Tempest Grey. It was from Halfords, and it was the colour for a Rover car where they sell all different sprays for patching up cars, and it was Rover Tempest Grey. It's a very, very similar colour. Not quite as good coverage, I don't think, but still I based a lot of my early models using that colour. But then I found this Montana Gold here. Now you won't really get this from hobby stores as much. It's more for sort of aerosol hobbyists. You'll find it on those kind of websites. It should be pretty much available internationally, so you should be able to track this one down. If not, you can mix your own colour up. You don't have to go for a dark grey. If you don't want to, you can go for a mid grey. It's like uniform grey, for example, would look alright. Available from Army Painter. Then Militarum varnish here from Games Workshop, just to finish the whole thing off once the whole project is complete. Varnishing's nice just to add a layer of protection to seal everything in and to make the models a bit more durable. Then for paints, we'll be using this is the base colours. This is already dark grey, so then a medium sort of grey here of Dawn Stone. Then Ceramite White here for the final highlights, and then this is for the skulls, so it's optional. If you're not going to put skulls on, you won't need this one, and that's a Shabti Bone. For blood splatters, you don't have to put blood splatters. If you do, I've got blood for the blood god, you don't have to use that. You can use regular Wazdak Red or something like that, but I've got this paint here. Now this dries with like a wet kind of gloss look to it, if you like that kind of look for your blood splatters. Agrek Surfshade. Nuln Oil, not really. I'm going to leave that one out because I don't really need that one. For the basin I've shown you, don't really need that, just to cut down the materials here. Seraphim Sepia, and even the Agrek Surfshade is optional. You don't have to go for that. It's just for a darker colour if you want to go for some more deeper shading. But you can pretty much get away with Seraphim Sepia for this technique. No problem at all. So that's pretty much all the materials that you need. So the first part of this technique then is to take your base, clean it up, take off the flash on here, run around the edge, make sure it's all nice and tidy, and then we'll take some of our green stuff here, break a piece off, sort of a small amount here, but if you're doing a whole series you can mix up a fair amount, and then just going to mix that up and then apply that to the base. That's going to create the foundation here for us to then put this rolling pin effect on top, so we'll do that next. Right, so I have my base here and the green stuff. If you just break off a portion of it, one trick that you can do is to heat it slightly. You can put it on like a radiator, for example, just for a short while. If you do it too much, it goes very sticky, but if you find you're working in perhaps a cold workshop, for example, it's very stiff and then hard to mix together. So you can warm it a little bit. Even just keeping it in the palm of your hand for a while is pretty effective at warming it up, and it'll make it easy for you to mix together. We're just breaking a piece of it off. Sort of, well, I'll show you the size because I've already mixed them up here. Sort of that kind of size. So a marble kind of size to mix up for this particular base. But if you're doing a batch, it doesn't matter if there's spare. You can just move it on to the next base, no problem. There it is, all mixed up. So it goes that green colour once it's done. And then push it into the base, and then really you've just got to spread it using your thumbs. It takes a fair bit of work. You can see the stickiness of it there, so just sort of keep the thumbs moving, keep taking it off there, because you don't want the stickiness going onto your hands. And you're just spreading it evenly, and you're heading towards all of the edges, and you're looking to reach the edge and to push just slightly over the edge as well, so the whole area is covered. So I'm a bit lacking on this side, so I'll push it a bit further. You don't want to go too thick with this, otherwise you'll raise the side of your edging here. So this is being spread quite thin. I've reached the edge here, so I'm just pushing it so it just lips over the edge, like so. That's it. You want to get it right first time, so I'm just making sure it reaches the edge all the way around here. And just checking over the base if there's any lumps and things to push them down. This will add a bit of weight to your base, not too much. This green stuff should stick to this plastic, no problem at all. Like so, it's quite good for actually sticking to surfaces as well. So I've reached the edge there, and just take your time, you want to make sure you get this right. Like so. So now you've got a surface that's ready to roll, so you put it down on a flat surface, take the rolling pin, whichever one you choose to do. This is the Cobbled Street, so I'm going to go for here. And the great thing about this is you've got the whole length to use here, so all the bases you make of this size should be completely different each time, which is great. It's really good. So start at one end. I'm going to roll quite quickly. I'm going to go all the way to the other side, like so. Now there's some damage there, you can see, but that's not going to cause too much of a problem with this technique, because we'll be adding things on top of this as well. And really, wherever there's kind of damage like this has occurred, that's where you can add your sand and other items as well. But the first thing I did, it's come out pretty good. There's a few areas here where the indentation isn't quite as strong. Again, that doesn't matter. You can cover those areas in sand. So the best bits you're going to keep as they are, and any damaged areas or bits that are quite bare. I'm glad this has happened on this one, because it will be able to show you how you can recover from this, no problem. And then here we'll put sand and things in as well, so that's not going to create any kind of problem at all. The first thing I do is just use my finger just to tap down just any edges that have lifted. And it's very light because you don't want to destroy your detail, like so. Then using the knife, you can either use the sharp tip of the blade or the blunter, thicker edge, and you can use that to just to clear up, like there's a crack here that's overlapped. I'm just going to reset that, and a few bits to tidy up. There's a bit there. The major areas of damage here, I'm not going to spend ages trying to sort that out, because I'll be probably covering that over anyway. Just pushing them down a bit more with my finger and just correcting a few bits. But actually not too bad, this one's pretty good actually. So, looking pretty good. I'll zoom in here so you can get an idea. There, I've just zoomed in so you can see the level of detail to expect. So there it is. Doesn't look particularly nice in green. Once the grey goes on, you start doing washes and other techniques as well, and you start putting the other terrain accessories on top. It really should look pretty good. But there it is. The indentation's mostly there. You can see it's a little bit ghosty around here, but we'll use sand around there. And there's a damage around this edge. We can put sand and other items there as well. But there it is. I'll just zoom out again. There's a next bit of tidying up to do now. So what we're looking to do next is to get this edge straightened out, because it's all sort of lumpy around the edge here. It needs to be tidied up. So using your knife, I'm just going to run around the edge here. I'm dragging the blade down the way, so if you lift, you don't want it lifting up off the base, so I'm dragging the blade downwards. That's taking the edge off of there and making it nice and neat, like so. It's coming out well. Any spare from the blade here can be collected and can use on the next base. There's no need to waste any here. So again, just running the blade along, and pushing the blade away from me and down the edge of the base, not up. We don't want to lift it off the surface of the plastic. This is coming off quite good. I don't want to cut in too deep and start cutting the plastic. I want to keep my edge nice and clean and tidy. I'm just taking the excess off there. This will give you a nice clean cut sort of look. Yeah, this is a nice sharp edge down there, which is looking much tidier. So just going around. Okay. So after you've gone all the way around, bits off that blade. After you've gone around, again using your finger or thumb, just very gently just tidying that up. So any frayed sort of edges and edges that are too sharp, you can just very lightly just rub them in just to tidy them up. You can use your finger now just to scrape any green that's on the main rim of the base. Rub that off like so. And because I spread that quite thin, that's got only a very thin layer on top, which is what you want. Don't want too much. So that base is looking really good now. So it just shows you it's a bit of work to do just to manipulate it and get it right. So now what you've got is the gaps in between the paving here. I want to continue those to the very edge of the design here. So I'm just going to use again the end of the knife here just to run those cobbles along to the end. It's a nice finish to add on. There's just a few to do, you don't have to be too meticulous, but it's just to do a good job. I'll zoom in here just a bit more so you can see. See, that's coming on quite nice, but tidying out. So just tidying up along this edge. Yeah. And this one that way. Again, just using a finger just to tamp it down. That's better. One in there as well. That just creates, it makes it look a lot natural, a lot better. So even though when we initially rolled that, there was a fair bit of damage there, once it's tamped down and tidied up, it's looking pretty good. I'm very happy with that base. Okay, so there it is. It's very difficult to get it perfect all across, so with this technique here I'm trying to show you that you can, there's a way around that. You just, the areas that are damaged, they're the areas that you cover with your other terrain accessories and basing materials and so on. Just save you having to keep, if you do really make a mess of it, then with your finger then just tamp it back down again to get rid of all of the original pattern and then just re-roll it. But it's a lot of work to do that, so just try and compensate and repair as much as you can, even if a base comes out not looking too good. So it's just a technique to show you that even if you roll it and it doesn't come out too good, you can still repair it pretty good and get it looking. I'm quite happy with that. I think it's no, it's looking okay. Now it doesn't look too appealing, as I said earlier. It doesn't look too appealing because it's green, but we've got some more accessories and so on to add to this. You may want to take your model if you've got it constructed already and set it on there. Sometimes you can make an indentation with the footprint of the model with its feet, so you know exactly where it's going to go. That can be useful as well. But I'm just going to we're going to let this dry, and then we'll start adding some other basing materials here and accessories to this just to build it up even more, just to add more effect to this model. I want to do the whole lot here, the whole base, all the accessories and so on, and then we'll get on to the undercoating and painting techniques to get it finished up and ready for putting your models on top. So this is dried off pretty good. There's some areas I reckon we'll cover, but it's like the damage that we saw earlier on and here where it hasn't made as strong an indentation. So that's the kind of areas I'm going to choose to add some accessories here and some grit and sand and so on. So first thing I'm going to do is to add a couple of skulls. They always look pretty good. Green Stuff World supply these here. They come on you get a pack of 2 of these, loads of these little skulls, and I'm just going to snap off. We'll do a little pile of 3 of them. So 1, 2, and this one here. Like so. Then I'm just going to give them little resin skulls. So I'll give them a clean just to take the base of them off here. The best way to glue these would be to use some super glue. So we're going to fix these onto the base first, and super glue should fix nicely to green stuff, no problem at all. I'll get these skulls into position, and super gluing them in means they should stick on and stay on pretty good. They shouldn't chip off as easily than if you use something like PVA glue, which wouldn't be as strong a joint for resin especially. So just sort of going to choose an area where these could go. I may put them at the back here, just covering up that area that's not so good just there. So we've got my super glue, and it's very handy to have some activator as well, just to instantly fix things into place. I've got a bit of activator spray ready, and I'm going to put some super glue along here and then arrange these 3 skulls, trying to make it look as neat and as natural as possible. So I might just tip this one over at an angle. Might put this one and just face it the other way, and then I'll put one facing back the other way. Yeah, I think that looks okay. So those 3 on there. I want them to be fixed in nicely with the activator, and that means I can immediately start putting PVO glue on with a brush, because this glue has dried here. They look nicely set in position. Excellent, that's covered up that damage quite nicely. That's looking good. Put the cap on the super glue here. So I'll then take my palette, add in a blob of PVA glue, and then we'll then apply it with a brush onto the base. I've got my sand on standby, so I've got my pot with my rougher grit and sand here. Grit and small stones, no real sand in that one. Drop some of that on first, and then the final pot for dipping here is sand and rough stones here and there, but sort of mostly sand. There, so those 2 on standby ready. I'm going to take a rough old brush here, and I'll go for this one. Just a rough sort of older brush. I want to fill in around the skulls, being careful not to go all over the detail of them, but just around the base of these skulls here first, and around behind. As you see, that rougher area of the paving's all covered up now, so that just disappears like so. And then also this area didn't have too much indentation of the paving, so I'm just going to try and make it sort of a natural look just there. And don't want to go too over the top, might just put a little blob there and just extend this out. Not quite join it up, it's just dirt, making it look as natural as possible. Add a bit more glue to that, so that's looking fine. And go to my stones pot here, and I'll sprinkle some of the larger stones on. Sort of grit being used here. I actually got these stones from a beach. They're a good job. That's the main sort of stones on there. And then I'll literally just put sand. It's quite dusty, the sand, so you'll see it's going to leave a dust on the base here, but just putting the sand on, tapping off the excess like so. Yeah, I'm happy with that, looks looking good. So then I'm just going to use my thumb to clean up the edge, to wipe away the dust and the excess sand that's hanging over, just to keep that base edge nice and clean. And then don't really want the dust here, and this sort of sand flakes have got in between the cracks as well, so I'm just going to take a dry, larger brush here and just dust that off. Just being careful not to dust away your piles of rubble and so on. That's just flicking away the bits that are in between and the actual dust there as well. Like so. Yeah, no, I'm quite happy with how that's come out. So that's now ready for, we'll let that dry and really make sure it's dried properly. The skulls are fixed on nice and strong, and it'll take a while for this PVA glue with the sand and gravel on there to dry entirely. Once that's entirely dry, we can then start going on to the painting process. So I'll undercoat this with spray just to tie it all in, good foundational colour, and then we'll pick out the details and inks and so on, just to add effect to this base. But it's coming along very well now. That's all the structure of it's looking complete, and I think it's great not just to have the paving running through, you know, it looks like it's just been rolled and that's it, but to add these accessories and the gravel all on top as well, just like a war-torn urban environment would be. You'd have the pavement, then you'd have all the rocks and rubble all over the place as well in sort of a battle zone. So that's the idea behind that. But we'll let that dry and then we'll go on to the next stage. So next stage is going to be to give this a spray. So we're going to undercoat it using this stuff here. It's Montana Gold and it's Stealth is the name of the colour. It's just sort of a darker grey. So you can mix up your own colour using airbrush or find an equivalent or choose your own colour scheme. You don't have to go for grey. You can go for sort of brown or tan colours, whatever colour scheme you want. I mean, pavement can be all sorts of, you know, sandstone type colours. It doesn't have to be grey, but I'm going to go for grey here for this particular army colour scheme that I'm working on. So I'm going to spray the entire thing here with this Montana Gold Stealth. It will do the rim here, the colour that I want, the final colour, and it will be the darkest tone on top here. So it will fill in all of the shading for me and give me a base colour to then build up some highlights and other techniques from that. But we'll get that sprayed next. Right, so base is dried like so. So when you're spraying, you just, with that Montana Gold, just keep sort of a medium distance, not too far away because it could start to dry out and look a bit funny. Not too close, you can clog up the details. Bit of practice, and then you could spray it all the way around. It's coloured our trim for us, and now it's really looking the part now. That green is gone now, and you can see it's great looking pavement there, and then these piles of stones and skulls. So what we're going to do now is paint the stone and all the highlights here. Very straightforward. We've got Dawn Stone, and I've also got the Ceramite White opened here ready as well. Okay, so I'm going to take, I've got a shade brush here, quite large, and I'm going to take the Dawn Stone onto the palette and just mix it into the bristles here, like so. I don't want loads because I don't want to flood the detail, but I don't want it to be too dry. And then I'm just going to skim this across the top. And this darker Dawn Stone here, I want it to pretty much catch all of the top of the paving, not leave any of that the darker grey, and just leave only the gaps in between shaded. It's gone alright, but I think I'm going to do a second coat. Now I am going to paint the skulls. Don't leave the skulls. I would paint them the grey, and that'll give you a nice, a lighter foundation for your Shabti bone later on. Again, I'm just going to keep going with this grey here. Going up to the edge, just catching the edge like so, but not going onto the trim. If you do get a bit of trim, just wet your finger very quickly and rub the paint off. I want to keep it nice and clean so I don't have to repaint it at all. Like so. Right, so then I've stabbed a little bit of the Ceramite White from the pot here, and I'm working it into the grey to make an off-white colour. And then I'm a bit cautious, I'm just going to rub a bit off onto the tissue here. I'm going to catch these skulls first of all. See that highlight going on? Then the stone, and then I'm going to catch this edge all the way around, and then the stonework also. Sometimes if I sense my brush is drying out too fast, I'll just damp that a little bit. You can use damp tissue, or you can just lick it a little bit just to help the flow continue. Even though it's a dry brush technique, you don't want a bone dry brush because you're going to start struggling. There, that's coming up quite good. That highlight there. Might do a little bit more. I'm going to just be a bit careful though. Don't want to go too harsh a white on this. And again, I've just wetted it a little bit, tiny little bit of spit, just a small bit, just to let this paint flow. And I'm going to catch those stones again, and make sure I catch the edge of this base all the way around. That's looking a bit better. Work it into these skulls a bit more, and just the stonework like so. I'm quite happy with that. That's come out pretty good. Great, that looks fine. Okay, so happy enough with that. Just going to check around the trim. It's a larger brush, but it's quite neat actually, because if you just tilt it at the right angle, you can catch that edge. And yeah, don't try and cover it at this kind of angle here and pushing into it, because you're going to start going onto your trim. But cover it at an angle, and then you'll not touch the trim there. Keep it nice and clean. untidy. But no, happy enough with that. So we'll go on to the next stage now. Next stage is Shabty Bone. I'm going to fill in these skulls, get them painted up. I'm not highlighting, just going to go nice and solid. So the whole skull, even the shaded areas. And it's up to you, but I'm even going to shade right in the eye sockets because I don't want them dark and blackened. I want them to be shaded with the Seraphim Sepia later on. So I will even fill in those holes there as well. I'm just going to work the brush around. Got a sort of a neater, tidier brush here. Being careful not to go onto the stone. As to fill these skulls in. Give 2 coats if you want. I'm just giving it one good solid coat. Seems to be enough here because you've already done the grey, and that's really helped to lift these skulls here. It means that when you're highlighting, you have to try and be really neat to avoid them. You may as well just run over them with the highlight at the same time. So yeah, the skulls are filled in. Just catch the eye sockets here. Great. Alright, so there's the skulls picked out, ready, and then all the washes will link this whole thing together and shade these up nicely. Okay, so next stage I've got here is the washes. This is dried. Make sure that the skulls have dried that. And I'm going to take Seraphim Sepia and just shade this base, so sort of where the rubble is, where rubble meets the road. I'll fill that in like so, something like that. And again around here where the skulls meet the rubble and the rubble meets the pavement. And around the back. Don't go too much, don't lose the grey highlighting there. And I'm going to put a little bit in here. And then this brush has a pretty good tip to it. I'm just going to run sort of in between some of the paving as well. Again, don't want to go too over the top, but just running around like so. Then my finger, I'm going to take off some of the excess because I don't want to go too over the top with this. I'm just sort of overshade here. And look, that's looking pretty good actually. That's a nice sort of balance. Just there. Then I'm going to take Agrax Earthshade. You can use Seraphim Sepia if that's the only wash you have, no problem at all. I'm going to go for a darker shade though with the Agrax Earthshade and hit the skulls with this. So filling in all of the eye sockets and all the detail everywhere. Making sure I really flood those eye sockets there with this shade. Yeah. Okay, so then it looks something like that. So that's just shading like really. Maybe fill in a little bit more here as well. Something like that. Yeah, that's better. So there it is. All nicely toned in. So we'll let that dry. It's got to dry completely. It'll take a while. And then we'll pick out the detail here in these skulls. Alright, so that's dried off. So I'm going to now take the Shabty Bone and repaint the skulls nice and neatly, leaving the shaded areas shaded. So I'm going to paint the ridge line, so that area all around the eye socket. Catch the nose, and then the top part of the forehead, not the whole thing. So I'm leaving a shaded area between the eye socket and the top of the head. There's some cracks and stuff going on here as well, just covering this other skull. So I'll leave those shaded in. Usually the whole top of the head I'll pick out. Then that recess in there I'll leave, the side of the head, and then fill in here as well. Like so. Now I'll just show you, I'll leave the other skulls for now. I'll then take some ceramite white, mix it with a little bit of a Shabty Bone just to make it an off-white colour. Then I'll pick out an extreme highlight now. So that's going to be your ridgeline. Again, nose, eye sockets around the eyes. And then I will pretty much catch the top of the skull again. This real washed out white kind of bone look. It's a great feature to have on your base, and especially if you take your time and be nice and neat, just looks really good. Like so. I'm really happy with that. So that's the kind of look you can expect. See that plain kind of colour? This doesn't stand out at all, and then you've now got this skull. Brilliant feature. I think it's well worth the effort, and it hasn't taken too long. So get these other 2 skulls painted up, and then that's that part finished. Okay, so skulls finished. And just really happy with how they've come out. Just a little cluster of skulls like that. Excellent feature to add to the base. So you put not putting all the emphasis on this pavement here. You've got other areas of interest, which I think is always a good idea. Sometimes stones will flick off and you'll see the green underneath, so we'll sort of cover those with flock. Any damage that you see can be covered with flock. It's just a great way of having to make repairs and repainting. Instead, that's an area where you put the flock. So I've got the finest stuff here, and also my grass tufts. I reckon I'm going to put one of these onto this base. So I'm going to take a blob of PVA glue onto the palette. The first thing I'm going to do is plant one of these tufts. So we'll just select one of these. I'll go for this one here. That's not too big. The larger ones I can save sort of larger models, like I don't know, say you're painting a Maulafine or something larger of a base, then you can use that for larger projects. So where to plant this one? I think I'll go just here. I'm going to go right on top of the skulls because we want people to see the detail of the work that's gone into them. So yeah, that tuft can go there. And then taking a rough old brush, I'm just going to patch in a little bit where the grass is, that's where the other flock can go. I don't want it to look like I've just plobbed it there, like it's meant to be there. And there's a bit of damage here, so I'm going to make sure that's covered. I'm going to go a little bit onto the rubble, and then I'm going to drop a little bit just onto the skulls here, and I reckon that's it. I don't want to do too much. I want a little bit of grass, but I don't want to start dominating the base. Then go to my pot here, sprinkle some on to the areas that have the glue, give it a tap just to help it all settle down, turn it upside down, tap off the excess. Yeah, it's just looking nice, and then I'm just going to go to the side here and just blow off the excess. Then rubbing the spare off of the side of the base with your thumb. Just checking over. Yeah. Nice. Okay, so that's that done. There it is. Now that'll start, that's white underneath there, that glue. That'll dry off, and then that'll look a bit more see-through. So just straightening that all up. That looks great. So I think that the skulls on there, the tuft of grass, but you see that green, you don't want to go too much, start putting loads of green on there. But again, it's up to you, you might want to, so you're free to got your own artistic license, do your basing however you want, but I want the main theme to be urban, and then a little bit of green in there. It's a nice colour to introduce. Maybe you've got an army that doesn't have any, colour scheme doesn't have any green in it, but you can start adding the green tones into the actual basing itself. So there it is, and that's ready for the model to go on top. There's one other colour to do, and that's your blood splatters. If you wish, you don't have to. This base looks great without it, but I've got blood for the blood god here. And I'll I'll do a little bit. I'll do a bit near the skull, just in this area here, I think. So an older brush, take a blob of this. I'm just going to patch it in. And then just a few splatters on the pavement. Like so, and then maybe blob it a bit more. There, it won't look too good if you put it on the grass, but just a little bit. And again, I've introduced a bit of red onto the base here as well for more technique. You can start to encroach on the skull if you wish. I might do that. I might just put a little bit onto the skull. Yeah, it looks good. No, it looks fine. I'm happy enough with that. Little splatters. And the very tip of the brush, I'm just letting it do a few little splatter type effects. If it's too much, then just use a finger or thumb just to remove any excess. I'll zoom in here to give you a close-up view because this base is virtually finished now. So there it is. Now, really happy with how it's come out. I would show you the model, but I can't because it's it's a secret project, so that's over on the Plus channel. But this is the basing colour scheme for them. This new faction I'm working on, but no, I'm happy enough with that. So the only thing left to do is your varnish. So Militarum varnish, just spraying that around just to seal the whole thing in, add a layer of protection, and that is the base finish. But that's the results you can expect. And again, just follow what I've showed you there along step by step, and there's no reason why you can't achieve the same results. It's great to have nice, I think nice basing for your models is excellent. You know, if you paint up models nicely, basing looks really good, sets them off really well. So that's the tutorial. There is an urban basing tutorial already on YouTube. There's one for the desert basing colour scheme as well, and then on the Plus channel there's in-depth painting tutorials. So bigger projects, a lot of those tutorials do show how to do the basing for those models as well. But there it is, that's the video. Keep a lookout for more tutorials. I do plan to make more for YouTube and the Plus channel as well. And then check out greenstuffworld.com. The rolling pin, the green stuff here, the rolling pin, the skulls that you see, the tufts of grass, that's all come from them, and there's loads of other stuff available from them. It's a real great place to get all of your gaming and modelling accessories from. So there it is, that's the tutorial. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time.